Good evening. It's 6:32. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the Board of Zoning. Would everyone please rise for the pledge? I pledge.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, please make sure your mics are on. Let's see, can everybody that's participating on Zoom hear? All right, we got a thumbs up. Let's see, Andy, would you take us through the roll, please?
Yes. Dan Justice.
Here.
Earl Bolander.
Here.
Amanda Jeschke.
Here.
Rick Jacobs. Nathan Stradevant. Here.
All right, thank you. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody, as lean as it is tonight. Thanks for coming. First order of business is to motion to approve the February 23rd meeting minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to look over these? Does anybody have any corrections or additions? All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
We'll move to approve the minutes for March 30th.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? Aye, I wasn't here.
Hi. Wasn't here.
Oh, so is that enough to pass? What do we do?
What was the vote again?
202.
2-0.
To approve?
No, you would have to have 3.
Okay, so we'll have
So
to
you-
hold over, table it till the next meeting.
Unless Alex, is that accurate?
If you can hold over to the next meeting, or on minutes, even if a member was not at the meeting, if the member is satisfied that those who were in attendance think that the minutes are accurate, you can still vote.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's see, we had a motion. Let's go back to a second. Okay, and all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great, motion carries. All right, good to know. We always have a
Yep.
new one that I never know what to do with.
Yeah,
Right.
that comes up a lot, just for your information, when we have, like, at the beginning of the year, or when we have new members or some change in the seats, and so it comes up every so often.
Perfect.
All right, thank you. Adam, do we have any additions or corrections on tonight's agenda?
No, ma'am.
All right, well, the first case up to be heard is a variance for 611 Vitality Drive, which is Mercy Road Church. Can you take us through the presentation, please?
Sure. All right, so for the record, this is Adam Zaklakowski speaking, the Planning and Building Director for the town of Fortville. As you mentioned, we just have one case on the agenda tonight. That is a case being brought forward by Mercy Road Church. It's located at 611 Vitality Drive. And more specifically, it's behind the southeast corner of Broadway Street, which of course is US 36, State Route 67, and Vitality Drive. The petitioner for this case is Eric Leisner of Civil Site Group, and he's working on behalf of Mercy Road Church. The zoning on the property, and I'll show you a map here momentarily, is business-3 or B3 as we call it. That's a grandfather designation from Hancock County that the town recognizes. The use of the property is institutional. It's a religious facility. And the request is that the church is in need of additional parking to accommodate their services and for a potential new 15,000 square foot daycare center. And there are 2 deviations from the zoning ordinance that are being requested. The first one is to allow 9-foot wide spaces instead of 10-foot wide spaces in the newly expanded lot. And the existing lot would also be seal coated and restriped to allow 9-foot wide spaces as well. And then the second variance is to allow no perimeter curbing around the parking lot. Taking a look at the aerial photo and the parcel map from the county's Beacon site, you can see the church located on the property. They do have some farmland on the south side of the property. And you can see to the north of it is a small commercial office building. It's also near the Fortville, or the Vernon Township Fire Department building. If we take a look at the oblique aerial, this is from a different angle looking south. You can see the existing parking that is out there today. And then lastly, here's a basic street view photo, compliments of Google Street View. So certainly if we need to refer back to any of these, we can. If we take a look at the zoning map, you can see that grandfathered zoning district. The commercial property directly to the north is also zoned B-3. Property to the south is agricultural, and that is zoned residential 1.0 in Hancock County. And then over to the east is residential 2.5 land in, I just need to, pardon one second, I need to log into one thing for us here. Okay, sorry about that. Over to the east is the Old Bridge neighborhood, that's zone residential 2.5. Over to the west, it's technically commercial neighborhood zoning, even though there are institutional uses there now between the fire department and the Vernon Township offices. So if we take a look at their proposal, you can see here, this version is designed with spaces that are 9 by 20. The areas in blue in the center of the lot would be curbed, and the parking area would be asphalt. And then over to the south, you can see that proposed building, which is about 15,600 square feet. That would be the daycare, potentially. So variance number one, again, they're seeking relief to have to do 10-foot wide parking spaces. They'd like to do 9. Allowing the petitioner to expand the lot and seal coat and restripe the existing lot with 9-foot wide spaces would allow for 175 spaces on the entire property instead of 153 spaces doing 10 feet wide. In terms of any remonstrance to this variance, all of the public hearing notice requirements have been met. That included a sign posting, newspaper publication, and mailing as required. We're not aware of any remonstrance to this particular variance. And then if you recall, for each of these variance cases, there are 3 criteria under state law that you're asked to consider in granting this variance, and the text in yellow is staff's opinion that you're more than welcome to adopt. So the first one is general welfare, that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. I'd say yes, that's been met. Allowing relief from this standard would not impact those items. Second one is adjacent property, that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in this variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And I'd say that yes, that's been met. Relief would not impact adjacent properties. In fact, allowing for more parking on site would reduce the overflow burden on adjacent properties. And I know they have, I don't recall if it's a formal agreement or informal agreement with that commercial property to the north to allow for parking there in this interim period. And then lastly, on this variance, practical difficulty that the strict application of the terms of this chapter of the ordinance will result in a practical difficulty in the use of the property. I'd say that yes, that's been met. Having 10-foot wide spaces would result in the reduction of 22 spaces overall. And it should be noted that 9-foot wide spaces are common in other jurisdictions, and they are allowed in the nearby Old Town area. So with that, on that variance, my recommendation would be to approve. Now for the second variance, again, they are seeking to eliminate the requirement to provide curbing around all of the parking areas. That is something that's required for the Fortville zoning ordinance. So for example, it says all parking lots for non-residential uses shall be completely curbed with concrete. Flat curbing may be used if needed to accommodate drainage. Should be noted that curbing would still be provided around the new parking lot islands, and no curbing would allow for sheet flow of stormwater across that parking lot out to the retention area. In terms of remonstrance to variance number 2, again, all those public hearing notice requirements have been met. Not aware of any remonstrance to this variance. I did receive a question from Teresa Hulbert. She is the property owner to the south. She wanted to know if there was any impact to the drainage, of which there would not be, because the water that will be coming off the parking lot will be going into the retention basin that's to the east, and there's a swale over there as well. So that has all been factored into the design. In fact, they've submitted final construction plans for review by staff if in the event you're willing to grant these variances. So again, out of those 3 decision criteria, the first one on general welfare, I'd say that yes, met. A variance regarding curbs would not impact those items. Secondly, in terms of the adjacent property test, I'd say that yes, that's been met. No adjacent properties would be adversely impacted because drainage would still flow to the on-site swale and detention facility. And then lastly, in terms of practical difficulty, I'd say that yes, that's been met. The current lot is not curbed. So with that, my recommendation is to approve. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to address them. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Adam. Does any of the board have any questions?
Can you give me a little, excuse me, a little bit of context on the 10-foot standard? Like you said, it's adopted in Old Town as a 9-foot. There's 9-foot in other jurisdictions. Is there a history behind why we chose 10-foot in this side of the Old Town area?
Yeah, that's a good question. And if memory serves me correctly, I think it was a standard that was carried over from Hancock County, since we basically modeled our zoning ordinance after them.
Okay.
And I think the reason we didn't change it is, generally speaking, if you have the space to do it, a 10-foot wide space is more comfortable to get in and out of your vehicle. So that's, to the best of my knowledge, that's how 10 feet got carried over.
Okay.
All right, anyone else?
And then lastly, 9 feet, the way that ended up in the downtown area is because the town had created unique development standards at the time, and it was not based on the Hancock County zoning ordinance at all. It was eventually folded into the ordinance, but it was created independent of that
Okay.
by other folks.
So that's why it's
Yeah.
kind of layered in. Okay.
Correct.
All right, I do have 2 clarification questions. On the map, the parking lot that is in gray, that is the extension that we're talking about, correct? The other 2 parking lots to the north and to the west are already in place.
Correct.
Okay, but
Except-
they're restriping everything to 9-foot wide parking spots.
Correct.
Okay, and the existing doesn't have curbing as it stands now.
No,
Okay,
it does not.
just want to clarify what it is we're looking at.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody else here on the board? Okay, we have time in our agenda then for the petitioner to come up and add any additional information. Just when you come up to the mic, just say, spell your name and how you represent the project, please.
Eric Gleisner with Civil Site Group, civil engineer representing Mercy Road Church Project. Last name is spelled Gleissner. Thank you for your time tonight. As Adam did a really good job explaining, we're requesting 2 variances. The first for the 9-foot wide spaces. Mercy Road Church is currently leasing 30 spaces from the adjacent property to the north, the multi-tenant commercial building, for their services on Sunday. And even with that, they're still, when they're busy, having to park people on the grass. So we need to expand the parking lot, but in doing so, that's still not really going to solve the problem. By restriping, that gets us an extra 22 spaces. That gets us to 175, which will accommodate their needs now and a little bit of growth into the future.
Okay, that's my question.
So that really helps us out by allowing us to do that. As Adam stated, 9-foot wide spaces are pretty common in just about every other jurisdiction. There's a couple of areas like Brownsburg, for example, requires 9.5. I don't know where they came up with that, but everywhere else is 9 foot. Indianapolis requires them to be a minimum of 180 square feet. So they either need to be 9 by 20 or 10 by 18. So we're 9 by 20 here. So we would meet Indianapolis standard as well. So I think that should work out really great in that we don't have to build more parking lot into the floodplain, cause more issues with that. We can get to the spaces by just restriping it. The second variance for the curbing allows, again, it matches the existing parking lot, which currently doesn't have any curbing.
Okay.
So we'll just be maintaining what's happening there in the existing condition, as well as we're going to put a water quality swale around the new building expansion and the parking lot. And by not curbing the proposed pavement, we'll be able to sheet flow that nice and evenly off the parking lot into that water quality swale, as opposed to by putting curbs in, we'd have to put turnouts incrementally, which would concentrate the flow. It reduces the water quality value as well as increases erosion and causes other problems. So not having curbing around that perimeter will allow us to just have a nice even sheet flow right off into that water quality swale.
Okay, all right, thank you. You can have a seat. We'll probably could call you back up if we have additional questions. Well, I would ask for public response. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay, let's go then to the government officials. If anybody has any comments or questions from our government officials. Okay, I see the shaking of no on the heads. All right. Does the board have any questions of the petitioner? All right, well, that's pretty easy. All right, let's see here. Well, any clarifications now that we've heard from the petitioner? Back to Adam. Anybody on the board have any other? Okay, still a no. All right, well, I think we need to do this probably in two different motions for the variance allowing the 9-foot wide spaces in lieu of the 10-foot. Could I have somebody with a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve variance 04/2023, 611 Vitality Drive to allow 9-foot wide parking spaces instead of 10-foot wide as required.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, the second variance is to allow no perimeter parking lot curbing as required. Do I have a motion, please?
I will make a motion to approve case number variance 04/2023, 611 Vitality Drive to allow no perimeter parking lot curbing as required.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up before I close the meeting? All right, this was an easy one. I'm looking for a motion then to dismiss.
I'll make that motion.
All right,
There we go. Seconded.
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and I'm sure nobody's opposed. So thank you for coming.
Have a good night.
Yep.